We have Season 6, Episode 9 of the UFC Contender Series, and we have some good betting fights on this card, and it should be very interesting. Some pretty interesting fights. We have that 17-year-old fighting tonight, and yeah, let's get right into the predictions. I'm going to be breaking down all the fights and predicting how they will go. So let's get started into the first fight. We have Echeverria versus Jafel Filho. Echeverria is 7-0. Last fight was a split decision win over Vascar Cruz. Good power in his hands, likes to pick his shots on the feet, and is very patient at the beginning of fights. For Filho, 13-2. Last fight was a submission win over Davison Silva. Very good jiu-jitsu and can get guys to the ground relatively easily with his grappling. Filho will be able to avoid the big shots of Echeverria. He will be able to use his grappling to get him to the ground and win by a decision by controlling the fight on the ground. Felt like when Echeverria got a step up in competition, he kind of struggled a little bit, especially in his last fight. He got knocked down multiple times. Not saying that Filho is going to do that, but I think I'm just going to give it to Filho because I think his grappling is just that much more dominant than I think the punching power of Echeverria. So I'm going to go with Filho. Next fight up the card, we have Nurullo Aliev versus Josh Wick. Aliev 6-0. Last fight was a win over Kirill Kryukov. I think it's how you say it. Good grappling, normally good in ground and pounds when bringing it to the ground. All right in the stand-up, has some solid power on hand. Has a lot of decision victories in his game. It's not like he's finishing guys on the ground. For Wick, he's 12-5. Last fight was a win over Kane Carisosa. Good stand-up, mixes in a lot of his strikes, good power in his hands, has good submissions off of his back. Aliev will likely win this fight. He has good takedowns, mixes in some striking in between his grappling, kind of like how Colby does it. He basically will try to walk you down, throw some strikes at you, and then take you down, and then just keep that pace up. Except for Aliev will just keep you on the ground and just try and outpoint you on the ground and just get those points by ground and pounding. He does like the lay in full guard and just ground and pound there. Even though Aliev is most likely going to win this fight, Wick is a really good betting underdog for this fight also. I think he's, plus 400, so I put a little bit of money on that. And he does have some very solid upset potential here. He has some really good jiu-jitsu off his back. And I think that could be very effective against a guy like Aliev. Could keep him a little dangerous there and does have some pretty good striking. So if he's able to stuff some of those takedowns, which I don't think he will, but say he gets taken down, there's the jiu-jitsu threat, and if it stays on the feet like it does every single round at the beginning of every single round, he does have a chance there. So I did put a little bit of money on Wick. Up the card, we have Austen Lane versus Richard Jacobi. Lane is 11-3. Last fight was a win over Eric Lunsford. Solid power in his hands, not good on the ground, and technical on the feet. Jacobi 6-0. Last fight was a draw against Hyoga Silva. Doesn't have too much power in his hands, isn't very technical, just chooses to throw every once in a while. I'm going to go with Austen Lane in this fight, more technical on the feet, while Jacobi hasn't faced the best competition and didn't look too impressive. Lane by KO in the first round. Yeah, I just think Lane has fought tougher competition here. He's a little bit more technical on with his hands. Last fight, he's kind of dominated on the ground, but I don't think there's any threat of the takedown here for Richard Jacobi. So I'm going to go with Austen Lane probably by KO. First round KO sounds really good. Up the card, we have Raul Rosas Jr. versus Mando Gutierrez. Rosas is 5-0. Last fight was a win over Andres Portocario, is how you say it, I think. Great grappling, great submissions, super athletic. Is 17 years old from what I've seen. He's about to turn 18 in like a month. Isn't great on the feet, but will look to get this on the ground. Gutierrez, last fight was a win over Matthew Elliott. Good grappling. Either submits his opponents by a rear naked choke or a guillotine. Solid power in his hands also. I do believe Rosas will win this fight. I think he is just a better athlete here. He tends to burst into takedowns and has great grappling and be able to out-grapple his opponent and look for the sub. I think he does get the sub towards the second or third round. I think just his fighting style in general, he kind of just chooses. He has some really good shot selection. He goes in there, is super quick with his takedowns also. He goes in, takes his guy down. If the guy initially stuffs it, he has some really good technical ways to get him down from there. I think he's just really fluid with his jiu-jitsu also. I think he's a pretty good competitor, especially for 17 years old. Very impressive. I am going to go Raul Rosas Jr. here. Up the card in the main event of Dana White's Contender Series, Episode 9, we have Aliu versus Ferreira. For Aliu, he is 10-1, and Ferreira, he is 8-0. For Aliu, he last fight was a win over James Webb. Has some good power in his hands. Both of these guys have some really good power in their hands. I haven't seen too much here. They're both kind of technical. I know Aliu does like to make it a little scrappy, but in his last fight, although he did win, he was like kind of ranged off and back here a little bit more. If you kind of get what I'm saying, like he wasn't really waiting to commit. He was just trying to wait for that perfect shot, and he did get it in that Cage Warriors fight over James Webb. And Ferreira just has some really good punching power. I believe in his last fight, he took his opponent down and just ground and pounded him and absolutely took him out cold. The main purpose of this fight is just to get a KO winner. I believe this is that's what it is. I don't know how crazy of prospects these guys are. But yeah, for this fight, I think it could go realistically either way. Again, they both have some really good power in their hands. It will probably end early. Probably first round. I'll give it. Maybe you want to bet the decision, but the first round here is great. I just am a little worried that they're going to be a little too tentative and not want to throw, but it's still Contender Series. They have to go on and knock each other out. Basically what Dana White wants. But we'll end early. But I do believe Brunno does have some bigger wins over guys with bigger records, and Leon is just like a pretty good betting underdog. He doesn't have the same kind of wins that Brunno has. Brunno has wins over guys that are super big veterans in the game and things like that. So I'm just going to go with Brunno here just because he's fought some tougher opponents. But realistically, I could see Leon winning this fight. Solid underdog in this fight, but I don't know if I'm going to bet on it. Maybe I'll just put down a little bit of money on the KO win for him, but I'm not super confident that either one of these guys will win. So I don't know if I'm going to touch this one. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. We have one more Contender Series card coming up soon. I believe it's Bo Nickel next because they wanted to milk him for as many Dana White Contender Series fights as he can. I took a couple days off, so I'll be back here for today for the Contender Series fight. I think I have a Bryce Mitchell versus Movsar Evelev prediction coming out soon, and then basically whenever a fight gets scheduled, I'll just break it down there. Any big fight that gets scheduled, I'll break it down there, and then I believe we'll have predictions this weekend. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.